Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. So I was debating if I should even speak about this or not. But being that over 100 million Americans tune into the Super Bowl, either as real NFL fans or part of the party or to watch the ads, the question begets that everyone's asking. Sunday we had the Chiefs against the Eagles, and everyone's talking about the last call with 2 minutes left. They called a holding call. Was it really a holding call? They didn't call it the rest of the game. Why did the refs call it? Were the refs cheating? Did the NFL want the Chiefs to win? Etc., etc. Now that's a big loaded question. And I don't know if I have the answer for you. But in today's Torah portion, we read many of the laws that God tells us that should govern a society. And one of the laws that God tells us is, V'shochad lo tikach. You're not allowed to take bribery. Ki ha-shochad, because the bribery ya'aver einei tzadikin, will blind the eyes of the righteous. Ya'aver pikrim, will blind the righteous. V'salef tevi tzadikim, and will blind the eyes of the righteous. Those are strong words. The Torah is not just telling you not to take bribery because crooked people will bend the court case because of a bribe. But they're telling you that righteous and God-fearing and kind people, even they will be blinded by bribery. There's an old anecdote about this kid who tells his father, he says, "Dad, tell me what's an ethical dilemma." And the father says, me and my partner, we do living wills. Imagine one day I go to do a living will for a woman and I write the living will and she says, "What do I owe you?" I say $2,000, and she gives me a bundle of $100 bills, and I come out and I count it out and I realize that instead of giving me $2,000, she gives me $2,200. So the kid looks at his father and says, "Okay, so what's the ethical dilemma?" He says, "The ethical dilemma is, do I tell my partner about the extra $200? The reality is like this. When you're talking about $16 billion being bet on the Super Bowl, when you're talking about $600 million just in Super Bowl ads, you think about the amount of money that goes in to make this game possible. And then you question, are people intentionally fixing a game? No. But it behooves us to ask the question, with so much money at stake and so many human beings having a hand in the outcome, could there be an unfortunate outcome? And that's why the Torah warns us not to take bribery. The Talmud tells us remarkable stories. The Talmud tells us about this rabbi who was walking over a bridge and someone helped him, put his hand to help him. And then he asked him, "Tell me, what are you here for?" He says, "I have a court case in front of you today." So I came. He says, "Well, I can't hear your court case." The Talmud tells us another story, one of the greatest rabbis in the time of the Talmud that had a leaf on his hat, and someone took it off and he refused to hear the case. The Talmud tells us a remarkable story about Rabbi Yishmael. That Rabbi Yishmael, one of the greatest sages, had a guy who had to deal with a contract. The guy would bring him the fruit from his own field, the produce, every week on Friday, and he would pay him for it. And one week the guy came on Thursday, and he says, "Why are you bringing it on Thursday instead of Friday?" He says, "Rabbi, because I have a case that I want you to sit upon." And the rabbi says, "Well, I can't anymore." So the rabbi found other rabbis to do it. And while the other rabbis were listening to the case, Rabbi Yishmael, one of the greatest sages, was sitting and listening, and he saw the way he was leaning towards this guy who brought him his fruit a day early that were his. And Rabbi Yishmael remarked, he said, "Listen how careful you have to be about taking a bribe. This guy was supposed to bring me my fruit anyways. All he did was bring it a day early." And what happens? Me sitting there, my mind keeps on tilting towards the verdict towards him. The thing is like this. The story about the guy who always says, "It's not the money, it's the principle." And you say, "Really? The last time he had a principal was in high school. What principles does he have?" The reality is that we all need money. Money makes us live. Money allows us to pay our bills. Money allows us to buy the things we need for our families, for our children. Some of us think about money 24 hours a day. Some of us think about money 23 or 20. Some of us 10. And the smart ones only when they need to. But we don't need money. And what the Torah is telling us is that Adam Karov Eitzel Atzmo. A person is always closer to himself. It's the reality of the way we are. And therefore you could be the most righteous person. But when someone bribes you unbeknowingly, you could tilt the case without even wanting. And that's why the Torah warns against bribes. Bribe doesn't mean that you take something under the table. The bribe means that someone who might have given you benefit will make your mind think in his direction. They say an anecdote about this guy, this judge who was seeing a case, and someone gave him, pushed under the table a big envelope, and he thought it was full of cash. And he tilted the case towards him, and the guy won. And then he comes home and he opens the envelope and he sees it's papers. There's no money there. He says, what a criminal that guy was. All I'm saying is, did the referee really think about changing the game toward the Chiefs when he called a holding call? I don't know. But the responsibility of the NFL, with so much money at stake, with so many people betting and so much to benefit for all the people involved, has to think about the perception they're giving the people, and has to think about what the Torah tells us in this week's Torah portion. Lo tikach shochad, don't take bribery. Bribery doesn't mean intentional bribery. It means also bribery that's unintentional. When you study the Talmud and you see how careful the rabbis who had to make decisions and rule in cases were to make sure they didn't benefit from those they were ruling in. Anyways, hope you all have a good day, and no matter what happens, it's already past gone. Let's move on to the next.